The rain began in earnest just as Sir Rowan dismounted, sending rivulets of water racing down the weathered stones of Marnay Hall. He watched impassively as the groom secured his horse, its flanks slicking with mud. Then he turned toward the manor, its silhouette stark against the pewter sky. Lady Evelyne stood in the entryway, her figure framed by the dim lamplight. Though her face was pale, her eyes were as sharp and clear as a winter's day. "I trust the road was good?" she asked. "As good as can be," he replied, stepping closer. "Though I saw few travelers brave enough to stir abroad today, for we have company enough within these walls." "We are blessed then," she said, stepping back to let him pass. The great hall of Marnay Manor was vast, its vaulted ceiling obscured by shadows, the remnants of faded tapestries clinging to the walls like ghosts. Despite the storm raging outside, a fire crackled merrily in the hearth, casting flickering lights on the anxious faces gathered before it. Evelyne stood beside a high-backed chair, her silhouette outlined by the flames. At her feet sat two figures, bound with leather straps, their heads bent in shame. "Sir Rowan Halley, I presume?" The newcomer stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over the scene. "At your service, my lady." His voice was deep, resonant, and carried a trace of the East about it. "Perhaps a bit of mercy is due them." "And these are?" "Knaves caught stealing from the kitchens," Evelyne said, her tone brooking no argument. "They will hang if I choose." The two cowered, fear contorting their features. For what are men but sinners saved by God's grace? "Indeed," Evelyne said, her lips curling into a humorless smile. "But I find that threats of paradise move men less than promises of torment. Am I wrong, my lord?" "God damn your pride, girl," the stranger spat. "And what business is it of yours? You haven't the wit nor the wisdom to comprehend the matters which concern us." "On the contrary," Evelyne said smoothly, her chin lifting. "Bind them up for tonight. Let them pray their prayers. I have more than enough. And may I say, Sir Knight, that your manners leave much to be desired. Now what brings you to Marnay on such a night? You would do well to remember that charity is a virtue, even amongst sinners." "Charity?" The man scoffed, turning to the guards. "See they get a crust of bread and a flagon of ale." "Bargain? With me? And what could I possibly offer you? Yourself. By dawn, they will be gone." "Thank you, my lord," Evelyne said, inclining her head. Then she turned back to the man. "And why do I sense a touch of desperation in your voice? Name your price, anything you wish. My only aim is to save my soul." "Ah, you perceive well, my lady," he said, a hint of weariness in his tone. "And I pray you will not hold it against me that my quest has more to do with myself than charity. For I have come to bargain with you." "You jest, my lady, but time presses and I cannot linger long." Evelyne raised an eyebrow, her gaze unwavering. "Marry me and wed me to your house." Evelyne burst into laughter, the sound echoing through the hall. The stranger blinked, taken aback. "Is that so? Come, sit by the fire. We have much to discuss." "Indeed," Evelyne said, wiping a tear from her eye. "I apologize. It is just that marriage is the last thing on my mind right now." "As you please, my lady," the man said stiffly, turning away. "But know that if you change your mind, you will find me in the market square come morning." He strode out of the hall, leaving them in stunned silence. "Prophecies? Well met, my lord," Evelyne murmured, watching him go. "So bold, so brash, so very interesting." Turning back to the room, she found a set of eyes boring into her back. "Sir Rowan, you did not think me a fool, did you?" "I believe," he said softly, "that you are far shrewder than anyone gives you credit for. But beware, Sir Rowan." She smiled faintly, a ghost of something sad touching her lips. "How kind of you to notice. But sometimes the dawn brings only more shadows." Later that night, long after the fire had died down to embers and the guests had departed, Evelyne sat alone in her solar, a candle flickering on her work table. Opposite her stood Rowan, silent and still, his shadow stretching across the floorboards like a shroud. He hadn't spoken much since his arrival, but his presence filled the room like a half-remembered dream. "What troubles you, Sir Knight?" she finally asked, reaching for a parchment. "Do you regret your return to England? Do you wish you were still in the Holy Land?" He looked away, his jaw clenched tight. "I came for answers, Lady Evelyne, and peace. Had it always been there? But all I seem to find is war and whispered prophecies that make no sense." "Aye," he said, meeting her eyes. "In the Abbey of St. Swithin, they spoke of an ancient evil stirring beneath Marnay, of a darkness that could swallow all England, unless a bloodline thought ended was allowed to rise again." Evelyne shivered, drawing closer to the meager warmth of the candle. Who was this bloodline? Who was to be their heir? "That, my lady, is what I have come to discover." "Then you have come to the right place," she said, rising. "Some truths are best left buried, and some secrets fester beneath the kindest smiles. Even in the darkest night lies the hope of dawn." In the days that followed, a strange energy seemed to course through Marnay Hall. Sir Rowan, with his haunted eyes and taciturn nature, became a fixture at Evelyne's side, while the whispers in the village grew louder, hinting at strange occurrences in the night. The air hung heavy with unease, as though the very stones of Marnay were holding their breath. One evening, as twilight bled into night, Evelyne found herself drawn to the chapel. Moonlight streamed through the stained glass windows, painting the floor in hues of sapphire and ruby. She made her way to the altar, her gaze fixed on the spot where Rowan had uncovered the ancient scroll. Beneath the altar, a slab of stone had shifted slightly, revealing a hollow space. She ran a finger along the cold stone, feeling the faint outline of an inscription. With trembling hands, she felt for the latch and heaved. The stone slab slid aside, revealing a staircase spiraling into darkness. An icy gust escaped, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something inexplicably familiar. Until the day you reclaim what is rightfully yours. Memories flashed before Evelyne's eyes, fragmented and confusing, of a cradle and lullabies, of a woman with hair like spun gold, and a man whose face was obscured by shadow. Then, as quickly as they came, the visions vanished, leaving her breathless and shaken. She glanced back at the opening, its darkness yawning like a hungry mouth. Then, steeling herself, she descended the stairs. The air grew colder as she went deeper, the smell of mildew and decay thickening in her throat. At the bottom, she found herself in a small chamber, its walls lined with ancient texts and arcane symbols. A single lantern hung from the ceiling, casting dancing shadows on the far wall, where a pedestal held a large, ornately carved wooden chest. As Evelyne approached, the lid creaked open, revealing stacks of parchment and a silver locket nestled in a bed of velvet. Heart pounding, she lifted the locket. A tiny picture of a smiling woman and a sleeping babe stared back at her. The woman's hair was the color of moonlight, her eyes shining with laughter. The babe clutched a piece of parchment, its face turned away. On the back, a single word was engraved, heir. Suddenly, the memories came flooding back, whole and complete. The cradle, the lullabies, the fear, the desperate whispers. She remembered being smuggled out of the castle, hidden beneath a nun's habit, as her mother recited ancient words of protection. She remembered the journey, the uncertainty, the life lived in secrecy. And she remembered her father, his face etched with worry as he handed her the box, his voice gruff with emotion. "Keep this safe, child." Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the locket, the weight of the secret crushing her. Was this the legacy her father had spoken of? And what did it mean for her, for Marnay, for England? As she turned to leave the chamber, her foot struck something metallic. She bent down and picked it up, her fingers brushing against cold steel. In her palm lay a key, ancient and intricately crafted, its head shaped like a rose entwined with thorns. Hope flared within her. Perhaps this was the key to unlocking her past, to unraveling the mysteries that bound her to Marnay and to Rowan. But as she turned toward the stairs, a new sound reached her ears, footsteps echoing in the corridor above. Someone was coming. She had only seconds to hide the box and the key before someone discovered the secret she had unearthed.